Hello everyone, this is Dawn over at Plot Chronicles. Today I wanted to tell you guys the 3 books I DNF'd or did not complete reading in the month of May. Let's get started and talk about it. I first want to say this. If I quote DNF a book, that means I do not count it in the number of books I read. For the month of May, and I'll be doing report cards coming up, but for the month of May, I read a total of 10 books. That means I completely read them. I know a couple of them were audio in there, and boy do I have a review coming up about one of the audio. But I consider that reading if it's audio too. But if I skimmed the book and I didn't completely read it, I do not count that. Even if I read half of it, I don't count it. Okay, so these are books that I didn't finish, and I'm going to tell you why. And 2 of these 3 books are rated really high over on Goodreads. So I always say this, just because I didn't finish a book doesn't mean that the writing isn't excellent, that it's not a wonderful author that everybody else loves, and that everyone else didn't love the book, because 2 of these books are rated very high. But I know I've mentioned this before. I feel like I'm a little more impatient of a writer, reader, and that it takes, it takes a while for me to become engaged. And what the most frustrating thing is when a book starts out strong and then all of a sudden it lags. And so I get bored, I think, a little bit easier than your average reader. So take that with a grain of salt. And when I feel frustrated or I don't understand what's going on, I don't have the patience, if that makes sense. I will always love to be honest about that, because I don't want to discourage you guys from reading books that I DNF, because you might love some authors I don't love, and vice versa. So the first book is called Famous Last Words by Gillian McAllister. I know I'm pronouncing it correctly. And very popular author. A lot of her books are absolutely loved. She writes generally kind of mystery / thrillers from what I know. I've not read a lot of hers, but this book was called Famous Last Word. It's rated really high on Goodreads. People thought it was twisty and turny, and I'll just sum this up for you in a nutshell. It's about a woman and a man happily married to have a child, and her husband kind of is missing. She's wondering what's going on. Gets a knock on the door from the police officer. Some police officers, and supposedly her husband is holding a few people hostage, okay? And it started off with a bang. I was like all excited, and then it got boring really quickly. To be honest, I didn't finish it, so I don't know what happened at the end. I tried to skim to the end, but I couldn't understand it. But basically, that's all I can tell you for that. They don't know why the husband did this, and a lot of it is just draggy, and then it goes into the future, and the husband goes missing after this, and I still don't know what happened, to be totally honest with you. If anyone knows, send me an email. Mostly, there was a lot of inner dialogue, and I'm not big into books that have a lot of inner dialogue and kind of dull-ish writing style in my book. But according to Goodreads, everyone loved it. Now, the next book was called Find Your Way. It's a self-help book, and I recently read a self-help book in the month of May. Well, I read part of it in April and part of it in May. It was kind of at the end of April, beginning of May. I'm going to do a quick review on it later on, but I already reviewed it actually, but I'm going to do a mini review when I tell you my favorite books. It was phenomenal. I mean, really good, and it's an old book from the 50s, but I absolutely loved it. I think I like a lot of these old self-help books that were written in the 50s and 60s, because they give you practical advice rather than a bunch of science, okay? That's what and I want to say this right now. This is from my opinion and some things I'm noticing. I've noticed some of the self-help type books, positive thinking books from the 50s, 60s, and 70s are basically, they give you some examples, but they give you good, solid advice, okay? And I really like it because it's tools for your toolbox. Nowadays, I feel like a lot of the self-help books give you a lot of just a bunch of stories. They don't really give you practical advice, and they also basically do a lot of science experiments, okay? And so I get bogged down with that. It's boring to me. So Find Your Way is a book about unleashing your power, and it just has a lot of stories, and I got bored with it, okay? And it was by a bunch of authors. The next one, and this is an author that is pretty popular. The book was rated average on Goodreads, but basically it's called The Last House Guest by Megan Miranda. I've read some other of her books, and it's about two friends. One is found unalived, and then a couple other friends connect. Basically, I didn't care for that one because there wasn't really much character development. For me, when I read a book, I love to get to know the characters, and I have to believe in the characters, and I have to care about what happens to them for me to love the book. That's me. I want to hear from you in the comments below. Are there any books in the month of May you simply didn't finish because it just wasn't suited for you? Let's hear from you in the comments below. That's all I have to say for now. I love you, appreciate you, and I hope you come back for tomorrow's video. Bye, everybody.